too often we hear historians, history teachers, gamers, and history buffs use the term Blitzkrieg to describe the tactics, doctrine, and strategy of the German forces during World War II. They imagine a large-scale coordinated penetration and eventual annihilation of defending forces through the use of air support and mobile ground forces to achieve a quick, decisive victory. This term was used that way by the press and Allied military leadership during the Second World War. It was used by almost everybody except the Germans, the ones that implemented its supposed principles and methods. This is because the word Blitzkrieg was never used by the German generals. It appeared in a German publication in 1935, but was simply an ad hoc term to refer to a short war to defeat the enemy, in contrast to engaging in a long drawn-out war of attrition. As a result, to the Germans, it was a general term, referring not to a doctrine or military concept, but rather an outcome. A fast war, a lightning war, is a result of the employment of modern doctrines, not a doctrine itself. Thus, the German generals and Adolf Hitler were never fond of the term. The concept that the German leadership subscribed to was maneuver warfare. Erich von Manstein used the term Bewegungskrieg, which directly translates to maneuver war or war of movement. In a war of movement, firepower and the size of the enemy force are seen as advantages that can be rendered ineffective through the exploitation of weaknesses to disrupt, cut off, or incapacitate enemy centers of gravity through the employment of mobile forces. Maneuver warfare allows a force to challenge and incapacitate a superior foe without resorting to asymmetric warfare, provided that the force is mobile, flexible, taking the initiative, and capable of exploiting enemy vulnerabilities. In the invasion of France, the Allied forces fielded more tanks, armored vehicles, and troops than the Germans did. The German army was less motorized and overall less equipped than the Allies. Conventional wisdom and attritional warfare dictate that the attacker must have a larger force than the defender. Otherwise, in the game of numbers, the attacker is at a disadvantage. However, with mobile units, the attacking forces can pick a particular spot to concentrate its forces and gain a local numerical advantage in that area, while the defender must spread out his forces across a wide defensive line. That point of concentration was known as the Schwerpunkt. There, the main effort was spearheaded by the best units who would smash through the defensive line and bring in mobile reserves before the defenders could bring in reinforcements. At the main effort, the Germans would employ combined arms tactics utilizing close air support, combat engineers, tanks, and mechanized infantry all in conjunction. In doing so, the defenders would be immediately suppressed and overwhelmed in the attack. When the line had been broken, the attackers would punch into the rear, severing lines of communication to prevent the defenders from regrouping and organizing a counterattack. Luftwaffe aircraft struck not only defensive fortifications holding up the advance, but bombarded assembly areas where the Allies tried to bring in reinforcement for a counterattack. Through fire and maneuver, combined arms breakthrough of the Allied defensive line was followed by exploitation, envelopment, and in some cases, encirclement. By taking advantage of speed and mobility, German forces can react quickly to changing circumstances, exploit enemy weaknesses, and always keep the defending enemy force on the defensive. By forcing the enemy defending force to remain reactionary, the Germans preserved momentum and maintained the initiative. These principles and tactics are not completely new. They were executed by cavalry and highly mobile formations throughout history. In the wake of the static trench warfare of World War I, the reintroduction of maneuver warfare by the Germans in World War II, coupled with the achievement of surprise and a technologically advanced German army, led to the downfall of France, the Lower Countries, Denmark, Norway, and Poland. For the sake of military and historical correctness, educators and writers should use the term maneuver warfare, and if they want the German term, Bewegungskrieg.